My guest this week is Michelle White Green, who's an award winning author of biography and historical fiction for children and young adults. She's also the grand prize winner of the Writer Magazine's essay contest. Hello, Michelle. Hello, and welcome to I'm a Perfectionist. Get Me Out of Here.
Thank you so much. Glad to
It's
be here.
it's such a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for agreeing to share your story with us.
All right.
So,
More than honored.
so shall we start by how perfectionism came into your life? How far back do you remember, and how it has affected you?
My father was he was a Tuskegee Airman. He served in 3 conflicts. He was a pilot, navigator, and bombardier. He left home with from the coal mining towns with $3 in his pocket, and he forged his way all the way down there to become a military officer, which is incredible because
Yeah.
he came from poverty. And he went down there, and well, I don't know if you know of the saga of the Tuskegee Airmen, but they never lost a plane when you know, they were hot shots. They were badasses. And so I was born in Chicago, and from the very beginning, I had an older sister and later on a younger sister, but from the very beginning, he held us to the highest standards, especially being a Black military officer at that time, because
Hmm.
there weren't any of us at that point. We just didn't get the respect, and so the Black pilots at that time, people didn't think that they had the aptitude to fly. And so when they went down there, most of them were college students. Some of them had been aviators, like crop dusters and things like that. And so the all the ones that trained them, of course, were white officers. And so they put every kind of roadblock in front of them. And
Hmm.
yet when they had to take these pilots tests over and over and over, and each time the Black cadets got 100% on the test. So they called themselves the 100 percenters, and that's kind of the that's kind of the code that we've been lived by. Do everything 100%. Of
Right.
course that's not possible, but you know in theory we weren't allowed to do anything less than try our best. So
Mm.
that's how it started, and it's sometimes it's a burden, but I try to hold to those higher standards even though that's not possible.
Hmm. Hmm. So how has it affected your childhood? What do you
Mm.
remember from your childhood as far as 100%ers concerned?
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example. Of course, racism was rampant. I was born in 1954, and that's when all of the civil rights stuff began, and Black people at that time did everything they could to show a good example and went to church. They were dressed to the nines. For example, my mother never let us go out without white gloves, petticoats, patent leather shoes, and
Wow.
Easter hats. Yeah, it was, and then we traveled all around the world, of course, and we had this big American car. And wherever we went, people were honking and waving because they had never seen anybody like us. And so once again, we always, we went all around the world. We learned to speak different languages. And it was amazing. We were even there to see one of the popes. We were in St. Peter's Square and saw the white
Amazing.
smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had incredible adventures.
Yeah.
Uh, Probably the worst part came a little later. After 5 years in Germany, we went to Biloxi, Mississippi, which was horrible. And we had to go to school off base to Catholic schools. And my sister and I were the only at that time we were Negroes or colored people. And, the base commander had to say, if you touch one hair on their heads, the entire wrath of the Air Force will come down upon you. So
Mm.
once again, yeah, I mean, it was kind of scary. But dad kept saying, just do your best and show them that you're not anything less than they are. My older sister went to secretarial school. They made her sit out in the hallway. They didn't even want her in their classroom. And so she tried as hard as she could. And sure enough, she got the best grades at her school. And that was what's expected of us.
So what you're saying is that you and your sister had to try, and um, even the pilots, to pass
Mhm.
the tests, they had to go extra miles, maybe even
That's right.
better than their best to.
Exactly. I mean, just to be recognized for who they were.
Hmm.
And here's something funny. I have a master's of writing from Johns Hopkins, and I'm pursuing an advanced degree in teaching writing. And all through the years, my father said, it's kind of a joke, if you get an A, if you get A's on your report card, I'll give you $1 for every A you get. And it wasn't the fact that it was $1, it was recognition that we had done well. So I went all through Johns Hopkins. My master's got 1B, and I was crushed because I wanted straight A's. It's Johns Hopkins. So I went to him and he gave me like, $8. So after he passed, I kept getting A's in other subjects. I went to my mom. I said, okay, where's my dollar? She said, that was a deal you had with your father. Go get it from him. Of course, that was
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Get it
yes, but
from him.
but that's interesting, isn't it? You said to me that you were devastated when you got a B because you wanted all straight
Exactly.
A's. So there's also
Mhm.
conditioning there, isn't there?
There
You get
is.
straight A's and you get rewarded, and you get a B, even though it's fine. There's nothing wrong with a
Exactly.
B.
But
Uh,
I've always been used to being on the honor roll. I mean, that's the other thing. I was always on the honor roll. Took
mm,
honors courses all through high school. I was a distinguished scholar. And I mean, all the way up through college. I there were only two people at that point that got the top award for excellence, and I was one of the two.
mm,
So, I mean,
mm.
that's how we were just taught to push all the time.
Yeah, so kept pushing for more than what you normally would have, perhaps. Is that what you're
And
saying?
more than my peers.
Yeah.
It's not possible to be perfect, but he sure both my mother and father made sure that we were giving our very best.
Mm,
And when it came time for me to choose my college, I wanted to go to a teacher's college because
mhm,
at that point I wanted to be a teacher. He said, "No, that's not good enough for you. I want you to has aspire to be more than a teacher." And that's when he said, "I want you to go to the Air Force Academy and be an astronaut." I said, "Mom," I said, "Dad,
okay.
I'm not even good in math.
So
I
it's
hate
not even
science.
it's not
Math
even
is
the
just not me."
sky, it's the
I know,
space that's the
I know,
limit.
I know. But even now, when I see all the accomplishments of Black women, uh, you know, from the ice skaters to the women that are doing so much, I kind of think I could have been that. I could have done that. But I mean that wasn't me, and
Mm.
I'm content being the best writer that I know. And I think I told you that I just won an award from Writer Magazine.
Yes, congratulations.
Yes,
That's
thank you. So
amazing. Why
I'm
don't
getting
you tell us?
affirmation.
Yeah,
I've made the right choice.
yes.
I
And
want to
that's
be an ice astronaut. I can write about Black astronauts.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, I have several books. The
Mhm,
one that I'm working on is called Oscar Invincible.
Mhm.
Once again, you see in the title that I write stories about excellent. I write historical fiction and biography for children and young adults, but everybody that I write about is an exceptional person, a role model, something to inspire others, especially young people. So the one that I'm working on, it's nearly done. It's called Oscar Invincible, the story of film pioneer Oscar Michaud. It is an incredible story. It took me 3 years going back and forth to South Dakota to research it.
Uh-huh.
He was a Black homesteader. He had worked on the trains. He was a Pullman porter, and he found out from all of his, the people that were riding up and down the train that they were getting ready to open Indian lands for homesteaders. And so he gathered up all of his money. He bought a homestead plot in South Dakota. He didn't know anything about farming, but he figured he could buy the land and develop it. Uh, it was a horrible place. He lived in a soddy that he built, snakes dropping down from the ceiling. He didn't
Oh.
know how to plow. But while he was in there, he started writing books. He wrote his biography. And when the film industry picked up, two people came and said, "We would like to buy the rights to your book and turn it into a movie." He said, "No, why should I give you, the copyright to my book? I'm going to make the film." And so the next thing you know, he went to Sioux Falls, bought the equipment, taught himself to be a filmmaker. Once again, excellence. So before the end of it all, he had written 7 novels,
Mm,
made 40, over 50 films at a
mhm.
time when Black people just didn't do that. So, that's the kind of stories that I write. The
So, so,
one
y-
that,
so you're
mhm,
looking into extraordinary Black people and
yes,
their stories and writing about them.
yes. So I
Yes,
think
bringing
children
them
today,
into
young
light,
adults
even.
today, they need to, first of all, they need to get themselves together. And, this is Black History Month here. And unfortunately, with all of the political climate, the racism that's going on, critical race theory, a lot of Black authors, their books are being banned. A lot of other books are being banned. So I feel I feel the need for Black authors, authors of color, especially all authors, to put their work out there, regardless, and give children and their parents choices. If they have to buy the books or read the books, it doesn't matter. Now, the book that I wrote before was incredible. It's called A Strong Right Arm: The Story of Mamie Peanut Johnson. And it's another story that I stumbled on. I live in Maryland, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and I was out on errands and I saw the opening of a Negro Leagues baseball shop. My son loved to play baseball. He was young, wasn't very good at it, but I thought I would go in there and find something to encourage him. And I went in there,
Mm.
browsing through the artifacts, and I saw a T-shirt with a Black woman throwing a ball. So I bought it. And I said, a writer writes always. I saw this T-shirt. I said, I'm going to have to find out who this person is. So I took it to the counter to buy it. He said, "Would you like it autographed?" I said, "Of course." She said, "Mamie is at the back of the store." I said, "Oh my
Mm.
goodness." I went back there, and I'm not shy. So I said, "Would you sign your autograph?" And I said, "Has anybody written your story?" And she said, "I have been waiting for someone to write my story. Of the 3 women who ever played in the Negro Leagues, I'm the only person left." So right away, I drew up a contract. Once again, it took a long time. I had to learn about baseball. I went to different events with her. I tried out with my son's little league team.
Amazing.
And this is really funny because I had to learn to talk to do trash talk. I went to a lot of baseball games, and
Right.
I actually have an authentic jersey that belongs to her. And so this is the funny part. You talk about humor and perfectionism. I mean, I
Yeah.
learned everything there was about baseball. So my father was alive, and he used to go to my son Evan his games, and he would be merciless with the little kids. I said, "Dad, they're only 8, 9 years old," and he would just once again being perfect. You should have thrown the ball to the left. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But
Yes, of
anyway,
course. So so your dad
I don't
not
know. They're gonna kick you out of they're gonna kick you out. So on the last day of last day of the season,
yeah.
and I'm working with the coaches, and they said, okay, now all of the parents are going to play the kids' team. But the thing is, they have to throw and they had to throw and bat with their opposite arm. You know, if you
Oh,
batted right,
okay.
you had
Yes,
to do the
yes, yes,
opposite in
yeah.
return to me. They said,
If you're
they said,
right-handed, you use left hand.
they said,
Yeah.
Mrs. Green, you can bat normal. It was so bad. Evan was so embarrassed, but I mean, I was just there for research. I wasn't there to become a professional.
Exactly. No,
Thing is,
exactly.
Evan he went on to play baseball. In fact, he wanted to go to the major leagues. He played baseball through junior high. He played all the way through high school, and he could play every position. Once again, a perfectionist. But the
Mm,
problem is he tore his rotator cuff. So he had to change. I mean, it was for the best. He changed majors, and he's a professional musician now with his own studio, uh,
beautiful.
music producer. He went to Berklee College of Music, the best, music college in the world. He got a double major. So once again, he took his disappointment and turned it into perfection. That's the way I've raised my kids, is not
So,
to
yeah.
stress them out. Yeah, but again, they know dad's high standards, and they do in everything they do. I mean, they know that that's what expected, even when they fail.
Hmm. So what is perfection for you? How would you how would you describe perfectionism?
I've thought a lot about this. I mean, I think it is something that we all strive for, but at the end of the day, it's just not possible. I
Hmm.
think you can set a goal, but you have to define it in small steps and not it's like the first part of the year with New Year's resolutions. I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to lose 1,000 pounds, and we know that doesn't work. So you have to divide what you think is perfection into small pieces.
Hmm.
For example, my New Year's resolution was to do one small act of gratitude every single day, find something to be grateful for. And I mean, that's easy to do. And so if I can complete that task, then I've been perfect for that day, no matter what else goes on. I just don't think it's possible to be perfect, but you can be perfect in small ways and just don't sweat the rest.
Yes, that's right. So really, going for progression, doing
Exactly.
things
Going
better,
moving
doing your
forward and not
best.
getting stuck.
Yeah, getting the best out of yourself, best out of your life,
Mhm.
rather than going for everything to be flawless, and
Exactly.
constant
Mhm.
high standards that are impossible to reach, or you reach it sometimes,
Mhm.
occasionally, and that feels good, but only for a little while, and then
Right.
the level is just got higher, isn't it? Because now you've reached
Exactly.
that, and the level has gone
There's another
higher.
challenge the very
Yeah,
next moment.
yeah.
But I
What's
think it's
next?
important to celebrate every single accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's a small thing, like when I won the award. I mean, I'm going to get money. I'm not going to blow the entire amount.
Congratulations. It's
I'm
amazing.
gonna,
That
right.
recognition is amazing, isn't
I
it? I
know.
mean,
I know.
let alone money and
It's
so on, but just your hard work being recognized is wonderful.
It is. It did so much good for my spirit. It did. And just the affirmation from other authors and writers. And it just feels good inside. I feel like I'm accomplishing what I was set out to do.
Mm.
And I had a fifth grade teacher. We were in Germany. She was my fourth and fifth grade teacher. And I've always loved writing. And she read to us every day from the Little House on the Prairie series. And so once again, I came home with the best report cards. And one time, her name was Miss Rao. She wrote on the report card, "Michelle is destined to be a writer."
Mm.
And she predicted it. And my mom showed me the report card. I didn't even know the comment was on there. And so, I mean, I have accomplished that goal. And if, no matter else what happens in my life, I can say that is a fulfillment. It's a fulfillment of a dream. I had
Absolutely.
five. Yeah, I had five.
Sounds
You know, when you do your 5-year plan, or when you're thinking about what are the 5 things you want to accomplish before you die, I've done everything that was in my, I don't want to say bucket list, but I wanted to own property. I own my own house. I wanted to get married. I did that. I wanted to have children. They're exceptional children. And I wanted to be happy in my profession. So whatever happens, I've achieved those goals.
mm.
And that's personal perfection.
Yes. Yes,
Other things,
absolutely.
yeah.
So how would you say in terms of your, because you said to me that your dad would constantly expect perfection from his children. So those were the standards that were put upon you, and there sometimes it ended up with, and he even conditioned at some points with bribery. Get an A, you get $1, and and you said that that was also what you expected from your children, that they knew what was expected of them. So
Mhm.
how, um, I guess that, besides the fact that you were devastated when you got a B, did those expectations of your dad from you and of you of yourself
Mhm.
and you of your children, did they have any negative effects in your emotions, in your life?
Yes. Once again, I mean, they credit me now. My other son is a independent filmmaker. In fact, he's helping me with the Oscar
Amazing.
Matilda.
Family of
And
creators.
I know
Yeah.
my husband
Yes.
is a graphic artist, so all of us have turned out
Yeah. Mm.
collaborators, and that's great.
Sorry,
But
I
in terms
think
of,
I just can't help saying, then you write the story, and one of your sons write the music, the other one does the graphics,
that's
and the third one
exactly
does
what
the film.
happened.
Yes. So
My son
just
Brian, they were living in California at the time, and Evan made a music video. And so he wrote the music. The
mhm,
person who is his wife now, she was a dancer in it. Brian was the art director and the
mm,
photographer. And the song is amazing. It's called No Ceiling, which, once again, no ceiling means there is no limit. It's
yeah.
called there's no limit to what you can do. There is no ceiling. So it comes out through his music. And he got married about 2 years ago. This is a song he composed for his fiance and sang at his wedding. Their wedding, he plays, I mean, this is the baseball player. He plays just about every instrument known to man. He travels. He's on his fourth album now. And when he sang it to his bride at the wedding and was dancing with her, I mean, the tears just fell. Everybody could feel the emotion in that. And it's one of my favorite songs of him because it expresses the feeling that if you, not that you don't have to apply yourself, but just to remember that you can rise as far as you want to, and you shouldn't be no limits.
No,
You
the only
fail,
limit,
they fail
the only limit we have is the limit
up
we
here.
put in ourselves in our minds, and that
Mhm.
because there is no physical limit to what we can do, and the fears can get in the way, can't they? The fear
Exactly,
of
exactly.
failure, the fear of success, even, or the fear
True.
of being judged,
Mhm.
or the negative beliefs are the only things that get in our way of where what we want to do, where we want to go with. space being the limit, right? According to
And
your
beyond.
dad. So I diverted you with the filmmaking and so on. And we were just, if I may take you back to it had any negative effects on you and your relationship with your parents or with your children and with yourself. What would you
Yes.
what would you say? What's your take on
My
that?
father came back from Vietnam. He was a changed person, obviously. He was special ops, and this is the team that the government didn't even really want to acknowledge. They
Mm,
were the ones that went into the bush and did the dastardly things like kill counts. Um, they were very clandestine. They were four men team, and my dad at that point has been taken off flying status. By the way, he broke the sound barrier right after Chuck Yeager did. And so he
whoa.
stopped being a pilot. Now he flew jets and was a pilot instructor. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, once again, only a few people, he was only the second person who did it.
Hmm.
Broke the sound barrier. This was way before we have all of these, Space Force and all of this stuff. But when he came back
Yeah.
from Vietnam, he came back a changed man. He had contracted Agent Orange and severe PTSD, and that
Hmm.
affected all of us. But it affected me the most because I was 16. By that time, my older sister, she had, moved out of the family. She had gone on her separate ways. My sister was younger, but I don't think she really got it. I was 16, and because of my sensitivity as a writer, um, it was such a negative time. My father would lash out at the least little thing. He was violent towards us. He was violent to other people that he met. For example, if he was driving on the road at a stoplight and
Hmm.
the car behind him, you know how they blow, meaning go on through the light. My dad would put the car in gear, come around to the person, ask him to roll down the window and punch him out. That's the kind of stuff he did. And so, of course, that negative, I mean, this is my dad, the high standards guy, and he just kind of pushed that to the wayside and he was acting out. Well, I have to tell you, it was so stressful. That is the first time I attempted suicide. So that's the other side of perfection, kind of losing, going so far down the rabbit hole that you think that you may never come back.
Hmm.
But of course, eventually I did. And I have to say, it wasn't until he had grandchildren that he kind of softened up. Yeah.
Yeah, so his PTSD was never treated, I assume. And
Well, back then, it's different now in the middle, in the armed forces. They recognize
hmm,
what PTSD is. Some people have been able to get mental health. They have people that are aware of racism, mental health,
yeah.
the whole gender issue, and all of that. But they didn't have the support then, especially for Black officers. It was just, and when I would ask Dad, what was it like, he would just say, we did what we had to do, and he didn't talk about it. Now, the story that I wrote for the Writer magazine, the one which I wrote, is called Dog Tags, and it's about I found my father's dog tags in looking through my mom's dresser door, because I'm
Mm,
always looking to unearth a story. I'm actually writing another novel about him called The Devil's Bargain, and it's about the whole Vietnam era. um, so his last time going back to his hometown in Kentucky, he put me behind the wheel of his Porsche and had me to drive down there. And during the whole time, he kind of unburdened himself about what was going on in Vietnam. So when I wrote Dog Tags, it was about that trip, but kind of connecting the way he was in the past with what he had gone through. And I think that's why the story succeeded so much, because it was, first of all, it was cathartic for me, but it was so detailed, the minutia, all those memories came back just in finding the dog tags. And I remember him putting his medals on, shining his shoes, carving the cleft of his chin, putting on the Old Spice, fixing his clusters, and kind of, once again, perfection. Every time he went out, shoes were shined,
Mm,
epaulets, all of that. And I used to watch him. And I was so proud because I knew this was perfection. And so, I mean, as even growing up with him, that was the best part of my day, just watching him get ready
mm.
and feeling so proud.
And
Um,
everything had to be perfect for
Perfect.
for that extra mile that he needed to go. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and whether I understand you correctly, that that because especially in the Air Force they were because of
Yes.
being black, they needed to
Yes.
absolutely be to much higher standards than if it was a
Mhm.
white officer, because they just wanted to make sure that they had no flaws. uh,
Exactly. They had something to prove.
yeah,
Because
but their
now,
self-worth as
yeah,
well, that they were worthy of
yes,
being
yes.
there. So everything had to be absolutely flawless. It's an amazing, I mean, I'm so humbled you're sharing all this with us. It's
I could
amazing.
go
It
on and on
really
and on.
is.
Let me talk a minute about my mother. Now, she came from this same small town. She lived
Mhm.
in holler number 6. He lived in holler number 5 in the
Right.
coal mine. And they married soon after he went to Tuskegee. And she never expected to travel all over the world. I took her to Denmark for the Hans Christian Andersen 200th anniversary. I mean, we went to England several times, and Spain, France, I mean, just everywhere. And so what she got, now she's a Black officer's wife. So they actually had courses to teach the officer's wife. I mean, at that time, it's really sexist, how to throw a cocktail party, how to decorate cake.
The
Yes,
perfect
the
cocktail
perfect, right.
party. Yeah.
Exactly. How to be the greatest cook, how to make sure that your children stood in line the whole time, were in line the whole time.
Behave.
Well,
Mm,
so
yeah.
what happened? So she became the perfect officer's wife. And that trickled down to us because she brought all of this stuff back from overseas. I'm talking teak furniture, crystal, silver. And my dad was like, why do we have to bring all this stuff? You know how expensive it is. But
Sounds like my
and
mom.
she still has it in her house. She lives
Yeah.
about 16 miles from here. She's 98
Oh,
and
bless her.
thriving. She is thriving. In fact, when I get back
Amazing.
home,
Yeah.
I'm going to see her. But she has developed these family traditions, and you cannot stray from the traditions. It's just not possible. For example, every single Christmas, she would give us a leather coach bag. And then when we all had 2 or 3 coach bags, we said, please, mom, no more coach bags. And then she
Yeah.
would give us a place setting of the Linux Christmas dishes every single year until she built for each one of us. These plates are gold rimmed. Linux is just beautiful Christmas dishes. And so we
Mhm.
can't use them until the day after Thanksgiving, because that's when Christmas, in her way of thinking, that's when Christmas starts.
Yeah.
I actually wrote 2 books about her, called Willie Pearl. It was a children's, actually 3, and she always wanted a doll. And so the day after Thanksgiving was the day that the sheet fell down at the company store, and all the
Mhm.
little poor children would go down to the store and see all the presents that they never could afford. And so the book that I wrote was about her want for a doll. And we actually end up making dolls in her image to go with the book. But the point is, it always has to be a live Christmas tree. She has ornaments from all over the world, glass ornaments, nothing tacky. She has to have clam chowder
So again,
for the
very rigid, very, very rigid standards, how
and
things
everything has to be
has to
perfect.
be.
Everything.
Yeah.
And for Easter, it's the same. Got to have lamb. got to go to, the sunrise service on the base.
Certain
You have to have
cutlery,
new
certain
clothes.
dishes.
Oh, yeah. You had to learn how to put the cutlery. And the thing is, my husband, he's only been out of the country one time and he's not used to this. So he's like, I don't see what the fuss is about. I said,
Just throw the
better
cutlery on
shut
the
up and just
table.
do what you're told to do. There's gonna be trouble. And so once my son got married, I continued the tradition. So whether they come here or not, I
Mm-hmm.
send them a place setting of the china. And so it's kind of, carrying it forward. And, at first she was like, oh, we don't deserve this. I said, yes, you do. It's carrying forth the tradition. So
Mm-hmm. Would you say, is there a price, do you think, that you've paid with your perfectionism, or looking back on a reflection with you about your father or mother? Would you say that did it have any cost for you besides the
absolutely.
gain?
It's a lot of pressure.
Mm,
Um, right now, I'm one of her primary caregivers. And so, she is very precise. I need this, I need that, I need you to take me here, I need you to take me. And it's overwhelming. Trying to
mm,
be the perfect daughter, even though I'm 68, she's 98. And so I do everything to make things perfect for her. She likes
mm.
a certain cake, so I make the certain cake. And if it doesn't turn out well, she goes, oh, this is too dry. You should have, not kept it in the oven as long as you did.
How does that feel when that happens? How does that feel for you now?
I feel, well, I'm the family baker. So when her favorite cake doesn't turn out, she shames me. And I'm devastated. She had her birthday and I was trying to make this cake for her and it didn't turn out well. So I ended up missing the party because I was trying to hastily make her another cake. And so, I made her some chocolate chip cookies, which were her favorite. She said, these are a little too hard, and so and what it does, it makes me guilty. Often I'm depressed. It makes me feel something less than I am. And
Yeah.
it should be. Once again, I gave it my best, but if it's not the best for the person that you're trying to please, then it can be devastating. It can be devastating. And I'm bipolar. And so especially with me, it affects my mood if I don't get it
Yeah.
perfect. If
Especially
I don't, yeah,
especially if if it's affecting your self-worth in terms of,
it
oh,
is.
well, I
It
did
does.
make the perfect cake for my mom, she doesn't like it, so I'm not good enough.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And
True.
you uh, doom yourself, as
Mm-hmm.
identify yourself as not good enough. So it's not that
Exactly.
moment of time right here, right now, this cake, it's the cake. It's not,
I know.
that the fact that it's the cake that's not good enough and not you as person. It's
And this is my
interesting, isn't it?
specialty. It's
How
like, how can you have done that?
perfection,
And
yeah.
usually it's because I'm rushing. I am rushing,
And the
trying to
pressure
get
that it
my
has to
work
be perfect.
done. Yeah, and that's what happens.
Mhm.
And the other thing, being 98, she has no filter. So the least little thing that she says negative affects me greatly. And, my therapist says, limit your time once a week because she has such a negative effect on you. It could stop you cold. And so
Hmm.
that's what I try to do. And we had a deal that every Tuesday I would go there, take her to the movies, take her on the errands, and spend the night. Well, now I'm pushing on this deadline, and she doesn't understand. I don't have the time to take her to Sam's Club. I don't have the time to take her for her groceries. She's sturdy, and emotionally, she's more sturdy. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think it's because I'm an author. I feel things deeply, and that is why I can write so well because I identify with my characters. And so there's a lot of internal processing that I have to do. So when she fat shames me, or she'll say something like, "Your legs used to be so pretty." I'm like, "Oh,
Your
thanks a
what?
lot.
Sorry? Your what?
I'm 68. I am not a cheerleader anymore. I'm not a majorette." And the thing is, she started me ballet lessons when I was 3 years old. I had my first concert when I was 3, and I took ballet lessons in Germany. Toes, they killed my feet. I still have my little toe shoes. And I went all the way through college being a dancer. And then once
Mm,
again, I went to the University of Maryland, and every Black person who auditioned got cut in the first round. And
mm,
I had had 5 years of classical training.
mm,
And they were like, "Oh, you didn't do your plie right, step out of the line." So I mean, I knew what was going on. So that's when I took up African dancing, and I excelled. And in high school, once again, the best dancer. I got the prize for that. I helped to
yeah.
help my uh, the dance teacher actually stage the final finale, dancer of the year, blah 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 blah. Once again,
You had to be
everything
though, didn't
I
you? Because
had to do. I
B is
had to
not
do.
good enough. It has to be A.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's my legacy. But the thing is, I have learned now to manage my disappointment again by little things, and manage the stress. I love birds. I watch my birds every morning. I make special meals just for me. I schedule massages regularly. And I think, especially for women, we are not as willing to take care of our own self needs, especially
Mm,
when you're married with children, or you're in the middle with, you're in that age where you're taking care of your elders. A lot of that just gets passed by the wayside. But I have built in time. Every night I meditate before I go to bed. I attend church online just to have kind of a spiritual cleansing. I read. I have different humorous groups on Facebook that make me laugh out loud, which I think is important. It reduces the
yeah.
stress. And the
Yeah.
kind of I only watch the news maybe once a day, because I
Yes. Yeah.
once a day,
Often
but
there isn't
otherwise
much
it
you
is
can do.
overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I live in social media, and I started doing that too, because I mean, these people they drive you crazy. And especially when it comes to writers, these writers groups, sometimes I feel like they're sucking the marrow right out of my bones, because they know I'm a published author. And I had to let go of some of those groups because they're like, "Oh, can you help me?"
Yeah.
And "Can you help me?" And I said, "I can't review your manuscript, because later on down the line, you could accuse me of plagiarism." That's what my agent told me. So no, I can't help you work. Well, can I
Mm,
partner with you? Can you tell me how to, get published? And I said, "No, I can't do that. I've got to focus
mm,
on my own work.
mm.
Take a class, join a group, go online, read a
Yeah.
book."
But you're really right about, how women are kind of programmed to be caregivers, that
Yeah.
we take care of everybody else around us, and
Mhm.
for some reason quite many women also feel that looking after yourself, or to
Mhm.
love yourself, or to take care of yourself, is the same as being selfish. To have that
Exactly.
time for yourself to do the things that you want to do is kind of like letting others down, because you're looking after you. And yet,
Exactly.
in order to be able to look after others, we need to be well
Mhm.
ourselves first, well within ourselves, so that we have the overflow and the energy to look after others. So it sounds
True.
amazing that that you have taken the steps to look after you, um, in order to um, create that well-being space for yourself.
It's
And
true.
does that help then, when you are handling your mom, the time you're spending with her, and when she's judging you about, with no filter, about the cake? So rather than appreciating the fact that you have
Uh-huh.
baked her favorite cake for her
Yes,
birthday.
yes.
Um,
Well,
because you know where your focus goes, your energy flows. You will always find a fault if you're looking for one or two
mhm,
or three.
mhm.
Well,
That's
it
right.
depends on what you're looking for. So if anyone bakes a cake for me, if I want to find a fault in it, if there, you know, if that's what I'm focusing on, that's where my energy goes, then I will definitely find something. Or in
Mhm,
people, or in places, or on the best holidays that you might be going. If you're looking
mhm.
for a fault, something that's not okay, it's easy to find. You'll always find something,
True.
right? So
And
how is this
it does.
affecting your self-worth? You know, is that about you? Is that about your mom? What's going on here when you say that you feel
I
devastated?
mean, I used to be absolutely crushed, but I find out that talk therapy is good. When I mean, because sometimes I just come home and sob. And that's the other thing. We were not allowed to cry.
Hmm.
It's a military dependent is called a
Hmm.
brat. It doesn't mean you're bratty. It's a person who it started out in the Civil War. The women and children after the war would go through the battlefields and pick up anything of worth, silver teeth, boots, ammunition. And so a brat was someone who followed. And so that's where it comes from. It's a sense of duty, it's a sense of honor, and that brats do the most despicable things because our whole purpose is to support the people that are in the military. And one of the things ingrained in us is that we were not allowed to cry. It was seen to be weakness, and it would
Hmm.
also uh, if you're weak, it would betray weakness in your father or whoever was in the military. And of course, it's inevitable that we're going to cry, but you don't do it in public and you don't do it around your family. And for example, the only time I saw my father cry, we left Germany. We were on our way um, to Italy. We were in Italy, and he got news that my mother's mother had died, and she couldn't get back to the funeral in time because the only way she could get there would be by military transport, and we were too far away, so she couldn't go. And when he came in to tell her we were all there, that is the only time I've ever seen my father cry in front of us.
Hmm.
And anytime now when I get upset in front of my mother, she says, don't cry, don't cry. So I have to go someplace and cry. Once again, it's that whole sense of perfection. Um,
And that
so I mean,
emotions are not really allowed.
no, they're not. You're supposed to
Yeah.
be positive, upbeat, never too angry. You're supposed to be kept even. And yeah, so there's the
Hmm.
pressure. But I have learned again through talk therapy. When I mean talk therapy, it's not just talking to my therapist, it means I've learned to talk it out with somebody. It might be my spouse, it might be calling a friend on the phone. It's been particularly difficult with COVID because you really don't get the FaceTime. But I do talk to my spouse. We're separated, but we're still the best of friends. And when I really, really need to talk, my youngest son, Evan, he is the he is a model of positivity. So he checks in every now and then just to say, "How are you doing, Mom?" And he can tell it in my voice if something's not right.
Hmm.
And he'll just remind me to keep it going and not to worry about what something was done. Let me give you an example that happened to me just last week. I belong to a Facebook group called Afrofuturism, which is a trend that's going on not just among Black artists, but also um, artists of color. And if you think of the movie Wakanda Forever, that's an example of Afrofuturism where uh, people of color are propelled forward into the realms of space or superheroes and that kind of thing. And so that's Afrofuturism. My son Brian is actually doing films about Afrofuturism. So I got on this post and we were talking about, there was a comic strip now that's being based on like Wakanda with Black women. And all these, Black artists were commenting in positive ways. And all of a sudden there's this post that says there are too many Black women. And so a lot of
Too
us
many
was like,
black women in what? In the group? Or
period. No, he just said there are two. It was on Afrofuturism. So he said,
right.
the person just said there are too many Black women. And so a lot of us started questioning, what do you mean? I was not vulgar. I just said, you need to clarify yourself. You need to check yourself. Why are you even into this discussion? And so the next day I opened up, I had a message from this racist person. And it was a direct message to me, not the group. He called me an effing nigger on Facebook. So of course I got really upset. That is not me at all. So I went back to Facebook, I blocked him, I reported him, and I put a post on Facebook that I had been a victim of hate speech. Now that really hurt. And it, once again, people on Facebook defended me. That is not you. You're a good person. This is what you've done for me. So that was affirming. But I got to tell you, I didn't tell my mother, but I haven't been called a nigger since 1965 to my
Yeah.
face.
So what does that say about this guy?
Well, he must have been a proud boy. He must have been, he was just a racist. So I went back to the administrator of
Racist
the
idiot,
team,
I
and
would probably
and
think. It's unacceptable.
yeah,
Completely
and
unacceptable. Yeah.
the administrator took the post off. She closed the discussion and took his post off, which was great. But I mean, that was just last week. This was on the heels of my finding that I had gotten the award. So I was like, whoa, don't let this devalue anyway, but I don't use F words. Like, I don't use F
I
words at
mean, think
all. So
think about it this way, Michelle. Think about it this way. If you and I do ask this question to many of my clients who are questioning their values sometimes, that if you have babies, you've got, I don't know, 3 babies in front of you, newborn. One of them is Chinese, or one of them is, I don't know, Vietnamese, one of them is black, one of them is white, one of them is, I don't know, Italian, one of them is Iraqi, and so on. Yeah. You look at those babies, they are maybe a week old or just newborn. Would you be able to say, this one is more worthy than that one, or this one is more valuable than that one, whether you know their background or not, whose children they are or not? Would you put any value on those babies? Would you be
well, I
able
like to
to?
say that I would value them all. We have a lot of multicultural marriages and a lot of
Exactly.
multicultural blood
And
in our
all
family.
of my clients, they're also like, no, they're the same. They're all just as valuable and just as
Yeah,
beautiful
we
babies.
have a lot of blended family. My niece, the father of her child is Puerto Rican. She's a very fair uh, African American. My father's father was white.
Mm,
My my husband married my sister married a white man. We
mm,
have a lot of Native American blood. In fact, there's a special sect called Melungeon, which is a completely different part of, it's like a tri-racial background. And in the military, it was pressed upon us because we're traveling so many places that racism would not be tolerated
yeah,
because you had to kind of assimilate into the culture. In when you were in Germany, you became German. You ate their foods, you learned their traditions.
yeah.
I had to learn
Language.
French when
Yeah.
I was, believe it or not, I had to learn French in Biloxi, Mississippi, which was part of the curriculum. And then we moved to Maine, where the French really came because we had Quebecois, not the same. And then I was in Quebec, which came in,
Mm.
and then I had to learn Spanish, and we went to Monterey, and now here where I live, Spanish is the predominant language. So we've had a little bit of everything. And so as military, we had to learn to respect different cultures. And there's a fallacy. It's funny. There's this, I was telling you about the Brats Our Journey Home film. It's where they interviewed over 100 brats and they were asking questions just like that. Did you ever experience racism? Did you notice color? And a lot of people said, oh, no, we didn't notice color. I said, of course you notice color. It's just how you work with, how you react to it, how you, what are your internal thoughts? What are your actions? And that kind of thing. It's inevitable.
Mm,
But yeah.
yeah. And so talking with your son, did that help? And
It
what
does.
did you, and even if you didn't talk with him, what do you say to yourself that helps you um, restore your self-worth and let go of the outside effects
Mhm.
that might upset you?
I have to say that my sons are my greatest inspiration. Unlike my dad, I mean, I do hold him to high standards, but I think I'm a little more lenient. And what I tried to do was develop them along the things that they wanted to do. When I saw a particular aptitude, I encouraged them. I gave them the tools. I gave Evan his first saxophone. When my son wanted to be a filmmaker, I gave him a little, at that time, a little camcorder, and he took it everywhere, to the point where he would be walking in traffic, and I'd say, if you don't put that camera down, you're gonna get smashed like
Yeah.
but I can see from very early, he was in like fifth grade, and I saw he had a very keen lens. Once again, when there was 9/11, uh, he was young, and he made his response to 9/11 when we were sitting around watching the television. He went upstairs, took the newspaper, and made a documentary about 9/11, and believe it or not, it won him the Distinguished Scholar Award for Maryland. And they were going to give him a free ride to any college in the state of Maryland, any free school. Again, it's a keen, he was in the moment. He took advantage, and he called it Helter Skelter. And that is the film. He decided, I don't want a full ride in Maryland. They don't have the
Mm.
kind of program that I want. And we're like, please, please.
Yeah. So
I
so
found a
what
program. Yeah,
so
I found a program for him in Drexel, and they only take 40 students
uh-huh.
in Drexel. And we found out about it like the very last week of registration. So Dad let me borrow the Porsche, and we sped up there 100 miles an hour and took his he had to have a sample. So he went up there with Helter Skelter, and the dean of the film school said, your work is better than most of our graduates.
Mhm.
He got in the very last day. So yes, he's an example of excellence, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to make him the first Black astronaut. This was right in his wheelhouse. And both of them will say they owe me a debt of gratitude because of the way that I nurtured them, and understood what was in their heart of hearts. And
Mm.
so when I'm in a bad place, all I have to do is think of, I did a pretty good job with my sons. So
Yeah.
that's my happy place. If nothing else can be said, it's more than winning a Pulitzer Prize or, anything. And I
Mm.
can look back and say, among all the things I've done, I've raised these two sons. No, they're not perfect. And we have our fights. One time my son was so mad at me, he ran away to Poland for a year.
How far
He
can I
did.
get?
I know, we'll take this. And he ran off to Poland and joined the go-go band. And we're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
And to be honest, sorry to break you the news, but nobody is. It just doesn't exist. Trying to have the perfect children or being the perfect mom or being the perfect spouse or being the perfect daughter, perfect friend, perfect colleague, or perfect writer. It just
Yeah,
doesn't exist. The perfect
it
doesn't
doesn't.
exist. But we can, of course, fulfill the best that we can, but
That,
also take what doesn't work with a pinch of salt,
yeah,
and see if we can do it
and
better
move
next
forward.
time.
Yeah.
So progress rather than
Hmm.
perfection. Um, is there anything that you feel that we haven't covered that you would like to add?
Just one small thing, and this is another point of humor. First of all, I got my keen wit from my father. His wit was more sarcastic, but it was always sharp and to the point. And so my blog is called Laughter is Medicine because I think one of the greatest releases we can have is being willing to laugh, either being willing to laugh at ourselves or something funny going around us. So I have this niece, her name is Shannon, and it seems like every single day I regale her with something stupid that I have done,
Mhm.
put on a pair of pants backwards or falling down the stairs, and she loves it. And she gives me a comment: we need to wrap you in bubble wrap. You can't afford to go out of the house. You need adult supervision. And we kind of go back and forth with that. So the ability to laugh at yourself or the things around you.
Yeah.
The other thing is my sons, and I can't even remember where this tradition started, but we have this. Uh, Whenever I do something nice, like send them a little money or do a favor for them, they must say, "You are like a goddess to me." So
Is that a
we kind of become
tradition?
like deity, right?
I
And
must
when they
get my
forget,
daughter to say that to me, and my husband.
and so they say, and when they forget, I say, "I am goddess." Oh yes, you are like a goddess to me. I don't know if I started it, if they started it, but it's being a goddess. That's a pretty important thing.
Yeah, a family tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And yes, I agree absolutely. Laughter and positivity just
Yes.
adds, it's something that keeps growing, doesn't it? You have that
It helps you to
positive
breathe deeply, which is
energy.
sometimes, yeah, when you're full of stress, just the fact that you can take a breath and breathe deeply will lower your blood pressure and help you get
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing to have you here as my guest.
You.
And thank you so much for sharing
You're
your
welcome.
story. I'm really humbled. It was amazing to hear about your dad, about your mom, about your childhood, and the story of, yeah, of your life and your writing. So I'm sure the audience loved it as well.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you so much.
You too.
Thank you for joining us in I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do leave stars and a review. Help me spread the word by sharing this with your friends and family. My practical manual, Transformation Through the Power of Quotes, will help you or someone you know get through tough times and feel happier. It is now available on Amazon paperback and Kindle. You can also check out our website, mindandmood.co.uk. Thank you again, and remember, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Bye for now.